Lesson 2-2, the area formula for rectangles. You're going to find the area and perimeter of rectangles in this lesson. You're going to connect multiplication equations to find the number of square units within a rectangle. You're going to develop a formula for the area of a rectangle, and hopefully by now you've played the game Rugs and Fences to practice finding the perimeters and the areas of rectangles. So I want you to get your Math Masters page 55 out, a dice, and 36 square pattern blocks. When you do this, the sheet 55 is going to explain that you're going to use a concrete model, hands-on. You're going to build rectangles and square pattern blocks, and you're going to discuss patterns as you fill in the table on Math Masters page 55. Remember that square pattern blocks are prisms. So for this activity, you're going to consider only the square face of the block, what you're looking at. So if there's no one available for you to do page 55, make sure you find one of the adults in the room, and we will go through this page with you and complete it. Pause the tape now, take care of that, and then come back and we're going to do some mental math and fluency. All right, 6 times 5, 30. 7 times 3, 21. 8 times 3, 24. Again, if you're not able to answer these as quickly as I just did right here, please practice those multiplication facts at home. It's only going to help you in learning the rest of the math strategies and skills this year and into 5th grade and beyond. Excuse me. All right, for this next part, you're going to need Math Masters page 54. In this, we're going to find the perimeter, and you can use a centimeter cube or a ruler. I would suggest the ruler. I think for you it'd be easier. And we're going to write an equation to show how you calculated the perimeter of the rectangle that is on the page. So remember, if you need to pause the tape now to make sure you have Math Masters page 54 out, do so. Get that out, have your ruler and your pencil ready before you turn it back on. All right, if you have it back on, I'm assuming you have all the materials that you need. You're going to measure the lengths of the 4 sides and then add those 4 measures. So measuring or using the ruler to find the length and the width, then you double that number, or you can add those 4 numbers together. So go ahead and do that now. What is the measurement for number 1 that you've come up with? And again, if you haven't come up with it yet, pause the tape so that you have time to do that. You should have come up with the number 22. And how did you get that? Well, you should have measured that you should have measured that the length and the width, so the length was 5, the width was 6, but there's 2 of those. So you had to multiply it by 2 to get the 22. Area? Well, for area, you take the length times the width. So my formula for area would be 5 times 6, my length times my width, which equals, and I put it in A here because A equals area. So what is 5 times 6? You should have paused the tape until you figure out the answer if you didn't know it immediately. And your answer should have been 30. So remember, the equations are slightly different for perimeter versus area. Area, we just take the length times the width, and that gets us the area answer. But in perimeter, we take 2 times the length plus the width. So you might want to think of perimeter as plussing. So complete Math Masters. The completed Math Masters page 54 was just done for you. And here were the answers just clearly written out. Remember, perimeter is the length of the boundary around the shape. So kind of like a fence is. It holds in the cattle. That's your perimeter. Area is the amount of the surface inside that closed boundary. So that's like the grassy area where the cattle are grazing on. Composite units. Tracing the square over the entire surface of a rectangle and either counting the individual squares or using the rows or columns are composite unit, a unit that is made from grouping smaller units together. So if you did use the cubes and laid them within inside the rectangle, you were using composite units. You were counting those units. Measuring with a ruler to determine the number of rows and columns, or drawing some or maybe all of those squares and counting either individual squares or rows or columns as composite units. So hopefully you understand composite units. If you don't, again, you can come ask me for further clarification. You can look in your SRB up the word composite units and look for examples. So here's the way. This would be a composite unit. We count how many across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we count how many up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 8 times 5 would be 40. That saves us from having to count every individual cube for the area inside this rectangle. So using this grid below, you're going to draw a rectangle with a length, that's the laying down line, and the width, and then fill in the blanks. You're going to find this in your math journal on page 37. So I am going to walk through this first one with you so that you know what they're expecting. So it told us it wants us to draw 5 as the length. So I'm going to start close to the bottom here, and I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, you can pause this at any time so that you make sure you're doing the same thing I am. And then it says, with a width of 8. So now I count up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, if this side is 8, this side also will be 8 in my rectangle. If this side is 5, this side also will be 5. So to find the area, what's my equation? Remember, area is length. The length is the kind of the laying down line, which is 5, times width, which is the line I'm going over right here, which they told us was 8, which equals 40. So what is my area? 40 square units. Now it says square units because if you counted each one of these units inside, you would come up with the number 40. Go ahead on page 37 in your math journal and finish 2 through 5. When you have completed, go back and correct it in the answer key. So stop the tape now and please finish that page. Here is the answers. In case the answer key is busy back there, you can pause this at any time to look at it. And if you had any wrong, please step up to see me because I want to make sure that you understand what you're doing. Rugs and fences, again, this is just the record sheet, and we should have played this by now if you were on this lesson. So you're just thinking while you played the game, or you play it again. I want to know, what strategy did you use to find the area of the rectangles when playing rugs and fences? Spin and round is another game we should have practiced, and that's just the record sheet to record your answers. So let's take a look at this. This is your math journal, page 38. It says, the dresser is 3 feet tall. What is the height in inches? Well, I'm hoping you remember that 1 foot equals 12 inches. So if 1 equals 12, 3 feet means I need to add 12 3 times to come up with my answer. 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3. So my answer would be 36 inches. The sidewalk is 15 yards long. What is that length in feet? Well, you should remember that 1 yard equals 3 feet. And how many did it say we had? It said 15. So you either have to do 3 15 times and then add it up, or you can do 15 times 3. Or write 15 down 3 times and add that up, and that's going to be your answer here. This is just showing you your math box, page 38. This was the problem that we just did on the other recording previous to this slide. This is your answer, so you should have paused the tape, completed that page. When you finish that page, I want you to check your answer in the answer key. If there's any that you got wrong, I want you to stop back and see Mrs. Voorhees, myself, or the pair that's in the room. The final thing you're going to do for lesson 2-2 is you're going to get out the Math Master Sheet, page 57, and your problem number 1 should look similar to this. And it's telling you again that you need to draw a rectangle that has the length of 9 units. Remember, length is a laying down line, the one that goes across. And then you're going to do a width of 4 units. That's the line that should be going up. You're going to draw a rectangle, and then you're going to write its equation and how many square units that is. You're going to complete page 57, pause the tape. When you get done, go back to the answer key and look up your answers and make sure that you did it right. If you had any wrong, please ask for assistance, because this is what the entire Unit 2 is about, that you need to master for the end of the unit assessment. Here's what your page looks like. Once again, please make sure you always do the practice down here on the bottom. And here it is showing you the squares. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up part of this, but I'm not going to show you the answer key on everything because I want you to have to get used to going up to that book. So these are the answers for this part, correct them, and then the rest of them I want you to go to the answer key to do. Area of a rectangle. So you should take turns rolling the die, and the first row represents the length of a rectangle, and the second row represents the width of the rectangle. So use the square pattern blocks to build the rectangle, or the count squares to find the area. So if you rolled a 4 and the second roll was a 3, it would be 4 times 3 is 12. We recorded the results on the paper. Describe the pattern that you saw on your table, and without building the rectangle,